Have you had the important conversations with the right people about your estate? With us today is Cindy Boury, Portfolio Manager at Raymond James Limited, to discuss why that's important. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sybil.
Well, let's start with what is an estate plan? I don't think most people even understand what that means.
An estate plan will give direction for your estate if you're not here, if you pass. So it really lines up what you would like. It helps reduce tax. It gives clarity on the direction of how you would like your estate to action if you pass away.
Now, it's not the most exciting thing to plan for because it generally means you're no longer here. Mm-hmm. But what happens if you don't have a plan?
If you don't have a plan, you often see family problems. You see your wishes won't be heard because you haven't made the will, which the will identifies your wishes and how would you like your estate to be laid out if you're not here.
If I want my assets to go to my husband, to my son, and to a charity, if I don't write that down and I pass away, everything will just go to my husband initially.
Right.
And that's maybe not what I wanted.
That's right. And that's where your estate plan is important, especially actually at all ages of life. Sometimes we find a lot of emotional problems with estate planning. And we see it a lot when people have built their wealth and maybe in their family they don't have that type of background. So they don't have the knowledge or the education to know how to lay out an estate plan properly. And it's partly what you want, where you would like it to go. But when you do proper estate planning, it also includes tax management. It can encourage you to potentially enjoy your wealth earlier because we do cash flow analysis to make sure there's lots of
Now
monies.
That's an important one.
Right.
So in doing the plan, people might realize they've got way more money than they need.
Right.
And maybe that makes them feel more empowered to enjoy it. Either give some away while they're still alive or
That's right.
go on those extra luxurious vacations if they wanted to, donate to charity.
Help
You
your
don't
kids
have
out
to
a
wait
bit.
till you're gone.
No, and that's where also your estate plan should be reviewed regularly. So for example, if you're say 70 and you start to enjoy your monies a little more aggressively than you expected, you may have less at the end of your life, but you may have helped your children and you've totally enjoyed your personal wealth. So working in that world, that's part of the role of the tools that should be offered when you're doing your estate planning.
Yeah, you can't take it with you. And in some cases, you do want to leave a large nest egg behind for family members, friends, charities, whatever your wishes are. But in some cases, you don't.
Well, and if you live to be 96, it might look very different than if you live to be 70.
Now, how many Canadians even have the basic part of an estate plan, which is a will? That's step one.
Yeah, I think less than 50% have a will, or more than, it was about 50%.
About 50%.
Yeah. And the challenge too, if you're a young parent, what made me get my first will is I realized my guardianship of my children would go to the court because I hadn't identified it. So I went and got a will so I could make sure my children, I knew who was keeping them if something happened to me.
Well, that's really important.
Well,
I hear
sure
a lot
is.
of young people and they get married and have kids, but they maybe don't have assets yet. They maybe haven't even bought a home and they don't really have much in the way of investment. So they think, I don't need a will.
Right.
Who's going to look after your children? Do you want the court to decide?
Well, and that's where get a will. You can do a very basic will at that stage. And as you get older and you have other wealth and assets and other things, it becomes a little more complicated. But also working with the right professionals will help you through that.
You
And
don't have
it's a
to do it
process.
alone.
No, it's a process. And actually the will is the end result of sometimes hours and hours of discussion.
Yes.
Because how would you like to stop your day today and say, if this was my last day, this is what I want it to look like?
Oh.
It would be, because you're not here. So
No.
I mean, right away you have an
No.
emotional problem.
No kidding.
So
Now,
there's a lot of discussion points. And some people, it's very, very emotional.
and having that conversation with family, I mean, you don't need to give away specific details to your kids and grandkids about how much money you have, but should you have a general discussion of where you want your money to go?
Yes, you should. And if you call your family and you have this discussion, who's the executor and why, how you're going to lay it out and why, these problems don't come up after you're gone then. If you have this discussion, we keep file notes, the lawyers keep file notes, and what happens if a family member disagrees, because of the discussion points, the notes, and all these things, we can support the will at a much higher level.
So have the conversations, document it, put a plan in place.
Yeah.
What would you say the main benefits of having an estate plan done are?
Well, once you realize that you may outlive your monies, and you realize that you're healthy and active, say 70-year-old, your advisor, your planner can show you how much a year you can enjoy without compromising. And sometimes we find, for example, in 10 more years at 80, your will might look slightly different, or your assets, and it's absolutely okay. So these wills need to be checked in on regularly to make sure they're still current, but it gives you freedom and it allows you as the parent to enjoy the wealth that you worked your whole life for and enjoy it with your family and others and charities. And if you do it right, you can have it all.
Cindy, I love that. Do an estate plan so you can enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
You're welcome, Sybil. It's my pleasure.